Hey, good morning everyone. Let's get back to work on the Fokker D.VII. Yes, I know this covering seems to be going on forever and ever. With the little conundrums I've come up with in the last video, still haven't gotten anything done with a muffler. Like I said, that can get kicked farther on down the road. But the fuselage, everything else is ready to cover. And as you can see, we're going to start by covering the bottom. And hopefully, by the end of this video, you will see the whole thing covered. So before I begin, let me get you off the stand, bring you over to the plane, and show you a couple things that I decided to make changes to before covering. Okay, on fuselage, what I originally wanted to do was I wanted to put the vent tube for the fuel tank up here. But because of what's sitting right underneath this area, which is the little lower wing between the wheels, you really don't want the fuel dripping off onto that. So I had considered moving it back, and then another YouTube guy, his name was at Flyboy WBL. I've actually had a couple conversations with him. He decided to do something that I thought doing, and because it worked really good on his DR1 and also his D7, he moved it back here. So I just came in, got a piece of light ply, and then underneath that's a little bit of balsa. So I went ahead and made a little teeny mount here, trailing edge of the wing, so I can go ahead just run the tubing over the, from the top of the fuel tank down here, and just have it come down and just exit right here. So that'll be a lot better because anything that drains out will be behind the lower wing, and of course the tail's not going to come into effect on that one. So I did that, and the other thing, my other little thing, I've told you before and I'll tell you again, what I do for people whose airplanes I build, some of them don't like it, don't care, I'm building a plane for them. My little good luck charm on all my planes is a little smiley face. If you can see it right down there, he's upside down because the plane's upside down. There's my little smiley face. He's my good luck charm. Haven't had one fail me yet. Knock on wood. So let me go ahead and let's start the covering. Most, of course, will be done off camera. I will be bringing you back at every stage. So I'm going to take care of this part first, take care of that, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do the bottom. And then from there, of course, we're going to be flipping on the sides, doing the sides next, and then doing the top last. So let's go ahead, let's get started. Okay, the bottom, she is done. Now, this thing took probably about an hour and a half. About an hour on the tail end, maybe a half hour on the front. Just taking my time, just because you want to make sure that you get it done with the least amount of issues. So, like I said, the back of this part, the bottom part here, smooth as silk. It went very nice, which I was very happy with. Now, what took the other hour was over at the bench, walking back over this way, and right about there, I caught that with my hip. Walking by, cracked this joint, so separated this joint back here and popped this whole little, whatever you want to call that thing, little stringer, just popped it out. So I had to come back in, make sure everything was, so I had to flip it over, make sure everything was level, and went ahead and reattached these two pieces. And I had to sand just a little teeny bit right down here. Not that it's a big deal, because you probably wouldn't have seen it anyway, but because of the glue. You're putting glue on top of glue, so it spaced this back out just a little bit. But regardless, it's all back together and it's solid. Once it gets covered, that shouldn't have happened. If it was covered, that wouldn't have happened because I just cracked it just lightly on this side. And as soon as you heard that loud little snap, you knew that you just busted a glue joint. So, but that was fixed. So that's, like I said, you look at it, it looks good, so there's not going to be a problem with that one. Let's see if we focus on it. There you go. So hopefully that focused pretty well on it. But no, it's all back in good shape. So anyway, now it's time to get this thing flipped on its side and get back to covering. All right, just like the bottom, we got the first side done. everything went without a hitch. My whole thing was how I wanted to go ahead and trim the top. Because what I didn't want it to do is I didn't want to overlap it up on the top so you'd see it. I'd rather have it overlap on the side, which is typically what you're going to do. So what I ended up doing was up on the top, just pretty much just cutting it flush with the top. All the way down, because you know right here is balsa, we could still work with that, just had to be a little more careful. But with the ply I was able to just kind of just lay it on the side and just slice it. So a couple little spots I'm gonna have to sand right there, and I think right down in here I just got to dress up a little bit. But no, it came out fantastic, which makes me happy. So it took about an hour. I got an hour for the other side, and then we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna cover the horizontal stabilizer bottoms before we start doing the top, because I'm still debating how I want to do the top, because I've done the top multiple ways on multiple planes. As much as it would be neat to come in, if I've got a piece that I care to waste a lot of fabric on, I can come in and run it up. So I'd cover the vertical stabilizer first, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing regardless, and have it just step out about a 1/4 inch on the bottom. So that way when the top goes down, it sits at the top of it, so it looks much cleaner. But if I care to, and I may just do it just because it's fabric and I've got a whole other I don't know, 15 yards of it or whatever it is, 15 square yards, whatever it is. Anyway, it's much more than I'm going to need to finish this plane off. I may just go ahead and when I cut it out, just cut this side wide so it'll be about 2 feet, and just with a slit up the middle, so when I come in I can just drop it down over the vertical stabilizer and have it run out on the horizontal, so that way it's one piece and it blends in very nice right here. Now the other option is do it kind of sort of like how I did the Taylor craft, which was I showed a seam here, because in real life it kind of looked like there was a seam there, and that's where it was stitched. So I can kind of, if I really wanted to get away with it on the Fokker, I could probably do it. I don't know if they stitched there, they probably went all the way back, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, both sides is done. That side and the other. So it's time to flip her upside down, and we're going to go ahead, and next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the bottom of the horizontal stabilizers, and we'll get that taken care of first. The bottom, the sides, and the lower part of the horizontal stabilizer is covered. Now let's go ahead and flip this thing over. We've got to decide how I'm going to cover the top. The decision has been made. We're going one piece. I know you guys in the little short video that I pushed through, pretty much three guys responded and 3 guys were different. So we're going with one piece. I know that the way that the real ones were made, everything fit across and it was stitched together on the bottom. So we're not stitching on the bottom. I'm going to get you guys set up in the stand to show you how I'm going to do this. I've done this in the past, and this was the one thing in question that might make things seem a little wonky when you're trying to get everything tightened up front. So that one I'll show you guys how I'm going to go through when I've got to get that properly attached down. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So let me go ahead, get you guys once again in the stand, and I will go ahead and show you guys piece by piece how I'm going to have to do this. To begin with, I want to set up a point right here, right in front of the vertical stabilizer, where I'm going to get everything set up to make sure that we're going to be pretty close to being in line, because this is fabric. It's got a lot of give to it on what you want to try to make it do. So I'm not 100% worried with all the extra material I have on the front for the fuselage forward of the horizontal stabilizer. I've got enough room to play if something kind of goes awry back here, and it's just got to do with getting the right direction of the fabric traveling up front. My concern is this 12 inches right back here. So I went couple inches long on the back, just because, you know, you're going to be trimming stuff off anyway. But it's just going to give me a better indication of that this is pretty much, this little spot right here is going to be perpendicular to the vertical stabilizer, because that's going to tell you whether things are going right or wrong. So what I'm going to do is I've kind of got it set up so that this side here is pretty much running perfectly straight up the vertical stabilizer. So if I come in, this side over here is the same. So we know that the way my finger's holding this down right now, we're pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, pull my other index finger out in one direction, slide it off in the other direction, and then right there, that's the spot right here that's got to get hit first. It's not a lot, it's just a little bit of nitrate dope just to get the initial stick down. And I'd much rather have a smaller brush, but this is what I've got, so this is what we're going with. Okay, so right now this is in here. We got to let this just kind of settle in and get tacked. And as soon as this is tacked down relatively flat, then we're going to go ahead, and this only takes like about 30-40 seconds. So as soon as this gets tacked down to the way I want it, then we're just going to go ahead and start lining up the fabric on the side, and then go ahead and I'll show you. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer for the next part. What I've done from this point in getting this tacked and set up, I'm going to go ahead and run a very thin glue line right up the center, at least to the rear tailing, the trailing edge of the cockpit. So I'm going to go ahead, because like I said, you got one chance to get this right and a million chances of getting it wrong. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I know you're on the wrong side, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a very thin line up the middle. This way it's going to give me something that I can pull sideways to make sure that everything is square back here before we're running the fabric past the leading edge of the vertical stabilizer. All right, so hopefully you can see the little racing stripe right down the center. So this is almost tacked up good enough right here. So it's just still a little wet going up to that. So now that this is set up, now we can come back here and we can start pulling this stuff flat in the direction that we want it. So, and this is, like I said, this is where things can go wrong really quick. Okay, this side's done. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side done. Now that this is set up and glued in tight, the whole thing is to get the fabric so it's sitting level and not going to be affecting the way that the fabric is sitting up here on the main part of the fuselage. Because right now I only care about from here back. So I'm going to come in with scissors, I'm going to create a relief cut. So it's just going to get us close. It's not going to be right up to it, but just get us close, just so that we're separating the rest of the fabric forward from the fabric that's back here. And we'll do this for both sides. All right, so now we're at this point where we're just concerned with what's going on back here. So I can come in, if I care to, and start tacking right on the let's just call it the top of the horizontal stabilizer, and I'm going to go ahead and start pulling the fabric as I go back to make sure we've got it relatively taut, and then we'll come back here on the far back corner and this will get taken care of. So that way this side will be pretty much ready to go. Not to cut it to the right length yet, but close. We're going to get it really close. So I'm going to start from right about here. Let's put a little nitrate dope right on this side. And then I'm probably going to go across and do the other side in the same exact location, because right now it's still kind of, it's not 100% free, but it really shouldn't affect it. But it'll give me a little peace of mind. All right, so let me just go ahead. I'll get this side all tacked in, this side all tacked in, and I'll bring it back to take a look. Okay, I've come all the way down this leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer, and then I've come across on the trailing edge, and I keep working it back and forth, so that way I'm making sure that any fabric that needs to be tightened up, or at least have some of the excess pulled out, this is the way to do it. I'm working my way out to this outside edge. So as soon as I get down to here, like I'll show you, I'm going to come in, I'm just going to tack it up about that much. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully we'll get that really close to the edge here, and hopefully you can see it. Like I said, this is the fun part. Now I've got just a little bit of a pucker on this side I need to pull, so I can pull it this way and work it out. See if I can get a little more over on this side first. And then once I pull it down on this end, we should take care of about almost 95% of it, and then the rest will be taken up when I go ahead and hit it with the iron and shrink the weave. Come on in. Put a little bit down, let's work with it. That's good, that's good. Good, good, good. And now just part right here, let's get this taken care of, and it should be pretty darn flat. And there we go. I don't know how well you're going to see it through the camera. You may be able to see them. Right here, there's just a very, very little bit of looseness right there. I mean, very, very little. So I'm good with this. So this will pull together very nicely when it comes time to do it. So let me go ahead and get the other side done, and as soon as that's done, let's start moving forward. Around the outside, I've already got this already set up to go ahead and trim this. And that's where I just come in with the scissors and just go ahead and just cut it off. I'll leave it 1/8 inch overlap so I can go ahead and sweep that down and glue it into place. I've got everything tacked down tight all the way up to where the horizontal stabilizer meets the main part of the fuselage. If you're wondering why I glued this section down before I shrank it, if you look at that little bit of an angle right there you go, you can see through it. Yeah, you know what would happen if I tighten that up. That is going to be that tight from that part. It's going to lift it up off the fuselage, and you don't want that. So if I take this and slide this farther forward, you can still see that little teeny gap underneath it. It's not until you get to where I'm at here that now it's rocking. So once I got to this point here, I know that as soon as I come in and hit this with heat, it's going to go ahead and shrink it down. So if there's any little bit of looseness in the fabric, it's going to go ahead and pull that down. So, but if you guys ever cover an airplane with fabric and you're doing just like the little Fokker here, make sure that because this is level, perfectly straight, this part is not. So you got to pay attention to when you're going ahead and transitioning from one part of the aircraft to the next. So, and it was the old empennage that decided to play the little game for you here. So, little helpful hint. We are almost done covering this part of the fuselage. Then we got trim work to do, but at least this part here will be done. Now I've got all the wrinkles out of it. I'm still going to come in with some heat and go ahead and shrink this a little bit. But as you can see, it's looking pretty good. I mean, I can just, if I wanted to, I could just come in with a nitrate dope and just paint everything into the center and it would be fine. But I still want to take these little teeny, I don't know if you could see them. It's where the fabric was folded and just sitting in the package. I want to see if I can get that little fold out to lay flat. And then I'll just hit some light heat, probably just down here in the center, and see how we can pull it in. First, I'm going to go ahead and use some more nitrate dope to go around the edges, and then come in and cut everything, get everything overlapped, glued down into position before we go ahead and throw any heat in this. So let me get that taken care of. I'll bring you right back. We are almost done covering this part of the fuselage. Then we got trim work to do, but at least this part here will be done. Now I've got all the wrinkles out of it. I'm still going to come in with some heat and go ahead and shrink this a little bit. But as you can see, it's looking pretty good. I mean, I can just, if I wanted to, I could just come in with a nitrate dope and just paint everything into the center and it would be fine. But I still want to take these little teeny, I don't know if you could see them. It's where the fabric was folded and just sitting in the package. I want to see if I can get that little fold out to lay flat. And then I'll just hit some light heat, probably just down here in the center, and see how we can pull it in. First, I'm going to go ahead and use some more nitrate dope to go around the edges, and then come in and cut everything, get everything overlapped, glued down into position before we go ahead and throw any heat in this. So let me get that taken care of. I'll bring you right back. The fuselage is done. Of course, the cowling doesn't count. So I still got to get the cowling done. But the fuselage is done. All right, everything worked out very nicely. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, but it doesn't everything. So typically, I always figure if I say it's going to take an hour to do something, it's probably going to take about 3. So total time on this whole thing, because I spent probably just covering the top of this and the vertical stabilizer, was probably pretty close to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, somewhere around there-ish. So total overall time, we're looking about 8 hours just to go ahead, minimum, just to get this thing covered. So but it's done. And that's the amazing part. It's done. So if you want to just quick little walk around, look around. Everything is straight. Everything is very nicely done. And you can see how this all joins in. So the vertical stabilizer, it looks very nice. I fought with the nose of it up here for a while, but where it's sitting right now, I'm happy. I'm happy. So everything is done. Because I'm going to put coaming around this, I just decided to come in and cut it off flush. I'll put the coaming around so we don't have to worry about anything wanting to lift or fray here. But yeah, no, everything is done. All right, that's it. You can tell what needs to be done. That's the cowling. And you know what? That'll be next video. I'll be working on the cowling. Of course, not just the cowling needs to be covered. I've got the cabane struts, the wing struts, and the landing gear are going to be covered as well. It's all little stuff, and so it's going to probably take me, I like to say it's going to take me about 3 hours, so it'll probably take me about as long to cover everything as it took me to cover this. So this is going to be interesting, how I'm going to do it. I'll probably come in and I'm going to put the material on. I'll get some good pictures of it because in real life, this stuff's pretty much just, it's riveted. So riveted, screwed on. So I'm going to find out where the lines are at, because if there is a true line here, I'll go ahead and I'll cover this first and then cover that second with a straight line. So I got to take a quick look and see what needs to be done. This has to be ground out a little bit deeper here. I need to come up to this line, swing it around, and dive in a little deeper underneath. And that's just for the cylinder head for the rockers. Because when the motor was in there, it was just barely bumping it. So I just got to remove a little bit more wood and that'll be good. So ending on a happy note is a really good way to end a video. So I'll see you guys next time. I'm back in the shop.